Okay. I was just
So,
listening to Lori Garrett.
did you listen to it?
I've got about 5 minutes left.
Oh my God, then that must be what inspired you to make that wonderful drink, because when she described getting together with her girlfriends and tasting 10 different wines.
Yeah, I thought about you. I really did, because I had made a decision at this point anyway, because I'm going by my own research, and she just solidified what I found out doing my research.
Yeah.
Which is very good to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought about, all right, we gotta I haven't seen you in 15 years.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the most persuasive conversations that I've heard. And that's just, we just finished reading 400, 500, 600 pages of Lori Garrett. She convinced me that she knows everything there is to know about viruses, everything there is to know about vaccines. She clearly knows about all the political challenges that get in the way, the egos and the competitiveness amongst the scientists. She's clearly well versed in all of that. Right. And I kind of have been following her, not closely, but following her work on COVID. And, we know how Lori rolls from, from our last reading. So she's really been into it deep. But the most important thing for me, because I'm such a close reader, I guess, I always feel like I have a sense of a person's character, personality, integrity. All of that comes through to me in what they write about and how they write about it. And so she did, despite the fact that she was getting on our nerves in the final few hundred pages of the book. Yeah. She did strike me as having a lot of integrity, and she's not a pushover, and she's not afraid about losing her job. She is going to tell you the truth. And so that's why I find her voice very persuasive on the topic of whether or not to get the vaccine. Geo, we're talking about a podcast that Michael Moore put out today, and it's a conversation between him and Lori Garrett. And, Venita and I and Rick just finished reading one of Lori Garrett's books. And so I was just saying, I find her voice very persuasive on the issue of, yes, go ahead and get the vaccine, which I still have not done. But, I'm probably going to go ahead and do it soon.
Well, it's a personal choice.
It's a personal choice. It's a very individualized decision, which is why I have not wanted to try to influence or persuade anybody. And, I think everybody has their own reasons and legitimate concerns and all of that. But I think that they're on the right track now with, now that they've gotten, kind of a good bulk of the people out of the way, this strategy that they're using of going out into the communities and really trying to talk to people and hear what those individual concerns are, and if you can address them. Because I think until you get to that level of individuality, you know, there's just going to be a whole lot of people for a whole lot of good reasons and bad that don't do it. So for me, her voice was very persuasive. Yeah.
Well, I thought I just.
And let me just say, Venita, I'm not persuaded, you know, that you're going to give me a donut or a cup of coffee or a Big Mac.
It's facts.
Or you're a celebrity, you know, or you're the local preacher. That's not working.
I wasn't even listening to that. I was just listening to the facts. And the facts that she conveyed were the same facts I got from my rheumatologist, my neurologist, my primary care physician, and my PA. So plus my own reading. So she just solidified what they had already told me. They gave me the facts. They didn't suggest that I do anything. They told me that it was safe if that's what I chose. After they gave me the facts, you know, I told them what I had learned. Now I want to know what you know, not what you think, but what you actually know. I don't want your opinion as a doctor. I want facts. And that's what I got. So she just solidified what I was told. I was not, you know, and the thing is that I wasn't, you know, my doctors didn't try to convince me or influence me, nor would I try to convince or influence anyone else. Pretty much people just want facts and they can make an informed decision. And that's all she did, is gave facts and dismiss some of the gossip, you know, the crazy theories, you know, or how the vaccine was, how it's produced and how they invented it. It wasn't with placenta or fetuses and all the other happy, crazy stuff that's going around the internet. So she just gave facts. That's all. Clear, concise facts. And gave you some food of thought for those that might need a little bit. You know? Like their mothers that take it. A lot of the mothers, Juanita's a good example. And she's a physician. She was hesitant until she got all the facts. And she didn't take it because she was a physician. She took it because she is now a single mother. And she has 2 children, one turning 4 and one is 5, turning 6. And her thing was, if something happens to me, then what about my children? And that was her deciding factor, along with being a scientist herself. But the deciding factor for her was, what happens if something happens to me? And with my children.
Very, very individual. At the same time, you know, people have various health conditions that can't really tell you at this point how the vaccine is going to interact with a specific condition. You know, and you don't want to be the one to be the guinea pig to help you find out. So
once again, it's an individual decision. It shouldn't be any conversations. Anybody trying to convince anybody, just give them the facts and just let the conversation leave. I think people are just putting too much extra into it, and it's just not even necessary. People have all kinds of problems and reservations with the health problems, disabilities, religion. It could be anything. Not sunny outside today, as she said. Some folks want to see after 20 million people are vaccinated, how many going to drop dead? You know, I mean, it's a lot. You know, so it's up to the individual.
Anyway, there are enough places to get information about the COVID vaccine, but not many places to talk about debt. So I don't know where our other friend is, but it's 6:10. So just about. So let's go on and get started. And welcome, everyone. I was trying to mess around, Venita, with the chat thing to see if I could bring whatever chat was happening on YouTube into our recording so that we could see it in the Zoom studio. But it looks like that didn't work. So
GL
on that.
Hey, Venita, how are you doing today?
I'm having a Midori this evening.
Ooh, nice. It's Friday.
I don't drink, and I decided I'm going to drink today.
Okay. Hey, it's a little care, a little self-care going
That's
on.
what I said, GL,
Okay.
self-care. We need some self-care, and Midori is the way to go.
All right. I love that color though. You have to
Yeah,
share the recipe.
it's a melon ball. It's a melon liqueur, Ciroc
Oh. Mm-hmm.
vodka,
Okay.
and orange juice and pineapple juice.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm getting some ideas. I want you to know.
All right.
Okay.
So,
It's rich.
welcome to Reading for Change, a collective journey. You can learn more about us on YouTube, where all of our video archives are maintained, and receive notices of upcoming events on our Facebook page, Reading for Change, a collective journey. Right now, we are in session 2, meaning we are reading the second book, having discussions on our second book, and we are in weekly meetings on Fridays until the end of July, with a couple of breaks in between. But we meet on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're interested in joining the conversations, please send us a message on YouTube or Facebook. The book we're reading is called Debt, the First 5,000 Years by David Graeber. Tonight we're on chapter 4, Cruelty and Redemption. And next week we're on chapter 5, called A Brief Treatise on the Moral Grounds of Economic Relations. And my name's Michelle Odom. I'm located in Brooklyn, New York, and happy to be here. Venita.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Venita Walker, and I'm joining you from Cromwell, Connecticut. Welcome. Here's my ticket in.
All right.
Is that Rick?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Georgette Moses from Columbia, South Carolina, and here's my ticket in.
Look at all those tabs.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, Georgette is serious. She got her
I'm trying to stay
tabs.
organized.
Oh,
you see how tiny this print is? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Georgette, well, that is very impressive. That's very impressive. I like that.
Yeah. What are those tabs? The start of each chapter?
Yeah.
I like that.
So I know exactly how much I have to do.
That, but I didn't have all the pretty different colors.
Oh.
Yeah. Georgette got all the Georgette, girl.
It was a Office Max splurge. I'm like, oh, look at that. No.
That's colors, all the pretty colors.
Yeah.
I could do something with those. And so I did.
Well, I'll read the summary to get us started. The anthropologist explores the error in seeing human relations as transactional, and how even religious thought has adopted the language of the marketplace through concepts like redemption. In Debt, the First 5,000 Years by David Graeber, chapter 4, Cruelty and Redemption. Religious concepts of sin, guilt, penance, absolution, and redemption, and the devil and St. Peter with their rival ledger books, reflect market language, observes Graeber. Throughout most of history, when overt political conflict between classes did appear, It took the form of pleas for debt cancellation, the freeing of those in bondage, and usually a more just reallocation of the land. What we see in the Bible and other religious traditions are traces of the moral arguments by which such claims were justified, usually subject to all sorts of imaginative twists and turns, but inevitably, to some degree, incorporating the language of the marketplace. Graeber finds that all major religions borrowed the language of the marketplace as a way of thinking about the human condition and what we owe to each other, and arose amidst intense debates about money and markets. This market language is infused in both ways we think about religion and ways we think about social justice. Problematic philosophical observations of human nature, people like Adam Smith in the 1700s and Friedrich Nietzsche in the 1800s, infused the capitalist economic system, and at issue are the truths upon which we choose to base the organizing principles of modern human society. So with that, let's talk debt. Of course, I have a bunch of questions, but is there anything that was particularly striking to either of you that you want to just bring out up front? Okay.
Oh, no, I was going to say that for some reason, Adams and Nietzsche, that's how you pronounce it, Nietzsche?
Nietzsche,
Nietzsche were stuck on transactional relationships as that's the only way this could ever happen that we've gotten to this point. You know, just know they didn't even skirt around, explore that anything else could possibly, be the foundation, right? So it's this way, and that's why we're right. Kind of thing. So.
Yeah, which it seemed to me that had something to do with their maleness and their whiteness. I didn't get a chance to post it, but there's a video that I saw this week on Facebook, and it's a monkey. And it's a mother monkey holding her baby monkey. They're sitting in a tree, and it's pouring down rain. And clearly the mother monkey is trying to cover her baby from the rain. And, I just was, and so I'm looking at that about the same time I'm reading through this chapter, and I'm thinking, what would either one of them say, Adam Smith or Nietzsche? What would either one of them say about that kind of a thing? I mean, they're monkeys, they're not humans. But, we know as women that women also, have some kind of instinct going on to protect our young, not because our baby can do anything for us, not because we're trying to compare or measure or show how much better we are than our baby. And so it's like they didn't have any women in their life that they could kind of run those irrational concepts up against.
Yeah, I think you said it. It's that idea of patriarchy, and because and I have to admit I didn't know a lot about Nietzsche. So I kind of did a quick look up. Well, oh, this guy is a study in contradictions. Okay, so he was an atheist. So, and like some of the quotes he said are so depressing. I'm like, just shoot yourself, man. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes. All right. Oh, Anita, anything? Did we lose Venita?
she was there for a minute.
Oh no, I'm here. I just had to turn the video off for a minute because give me a second, okay? I can hear you though.
Oh, okay. So, Gio, speaking of Nietzsche, you want to read question 8?
Okay. There is also every reason to believe that Nietzsche knew the premise was insane. He was starting out from the standard common sense assumptions about the nature of human beings prevalent in his day, and to a large extent still prevalent, that we are rational, calculating machines, that commercial self-interest comes before society. A. In what ways is insanity showing up in the public square today? And B, do you see human beings as rational calculating machines or believe that commercial self-interest comes before society? How about Big Pharma's reluctance to share the COVID-19 vaccine with other countries?
Thank you.
In what ways is insanity showing up? Hey, turn on the TV. Stay on your phone.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's I think one of the striking things for me about today is this whole effort among the Republicans to try to flip reality, right before our eyes, to tell bold-faced lies and to support each other in doing this. And Adam Smith would or Nietzsche would probably argue that that's not insanity. That's them calculating, their opportunities, trying to get the most benefit. They must see some kind of benefit that they're going to get out of it that the rest of us don't see. But it also just makes me wonder, not all of them, but how many of them that go along with these vicious lies and efforts to flip reality, how many of them are just insane?
Well,
yeah.
That's a good question. If we knew the number, we might really be afraid.
I hope it's not 74 million.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, something is definitely happening because everywhere, and I mean, we've had, I'm sure, instances of gun violence, but I mean, it's just like in places you don't, well, we wouldn't have expected, I guess, a couple of years ago, just random, folks with guns, and I have nothing against gun ownership, but it's just how these people are using them. Oh, you fired me last year. You looked at me sideways. And what was it?
Right.
Ida in Idaho, a 6th grader. Okay. You gonna call me out my name one more time and you eating this lead kind of thing. I don't know. Okay, I'm just hypothesizing, having been a sixth grader. Okay.
Good.
One
Oh,
time,
good.
like,
You never know.
oh my goodness. And so I mean, and if in their homes, getting back to this self-interest, whether it's, commercial or not, because of this transactional type, relationships, it seems our society is based on here, you know, well, what do you owe me when I come to school or to the workplace? You owe me respect, or you owe me allegiance, or, you know, and how they justified that, is either using morality or I guess, hmm, hmm, well, as a rational calculating machine, going back to the quote,
Mhm.
well, you figure in your mind with the data you have, oh, well, this makes sense to me, using the information that you've got.
Mhm.
But when those two kind of things butt heads and there's such a contradiction, well, then maybe the machine starts short circuiting and it can't, come to the right conclusion. That's because imagining a benefit, a beneficiary, a beneficial outcome for everyone involved, that's
Mhm.
not part of the equation. It's just what's going to satisfy me at this moment
Right.
because I feel a certain way, or I feel I need a certain thing, or to get more for whatever I'm doing than you're willing to give me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Insane. Let me see. What? Um, uh, Rick. I'm corresponding with Rick over here. Venita, anything?
What questions was that again? I'm sorry, I was distracted for a minute.
On question 8. Well, what do you think about this question of big pharma being reluctant to share their formula for the COVID vaccine with other countries? Does that strike you as a rational, calculating, self-interested decision, or what do you think about that?
I think it's big business. It's just the way big business moves. That's the way, that's why you have intellectual property. They want to make their money. They invest a lot of money in research, a lot of money in whatever else they're paying, folks
Mm-hmm.
they're paying to get where they want to go. And they
Mm-hmm.
want to have the luxury of reaping what they sow.
Yeah.
Yes, it's selfish in a pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
but that's why they have corporations, because they don't have hearts, they don't have minds, they don't think about
Mm-hmm.
pandemics, they don't have to do that. And that's why we incorporate, so we can separate human feelings and thoughts from
Mm-hmm.
corporate entities. So,
Yeah.
I understand how they feel if you look at the capitalistic side of it. If I was a big farmer owner, CEO, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, we spent how many millions in research, and we need to enjoy that luxury. And if you're really selfish, they're actually saying whether it's a pandemic or not.
Mm-hmm.
Lori Garrett brought up some quite a few interesting things, ways to resolve some issues, such as wasting injections, because of course Pfizer has to be stored at a certain temperature, which requires the sophisticated refrigeration, and Moderna doesn't. So why isn't it, that Moderna can't share, their formula with Pfizer, so that it can reach more people?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because Moderna said, well, really? We spend money and research this and that and let them figure it out themselves. It's not about human life. It really isn't. Science is about, it's about capitalism. It's about money, and that's it. Not saying that lessens their product.
Yeah. You know. Well, I thought she brought up a lot of good points that, you know, because I would have just, you know, simply thought of it as commercial self-interest to an irrational degree in the age of a pandemic. But she talked about, and we're talking about her conversation today with Michael Moore. She said she was happy that, you know, Joe Biden has agreed to support the idea of releasing the patents so that other countries will be able to create to manufacture the vaccine. But then she went into talking about the shortages that even the major companies like Pfizer and Moderna are encountering right now in getting some of the raw materials and other small pieces of technology and you know, involved in the process. So she's not hopeful that even with a release on the patents, many other countries are going to be able to take advantage of it, which is why she was saying, you know, we have to figure out how to be less wasteful with the vaccines that we currently have on hand in the wealthier countries. But like she talked about, even there being a shortage on syringes, you know, right now. Yeah. And so it's, you know, so I guess it's more complicated than just greed. You know, but that's certainly an element. She also talked about Moderna being almost fully funded by government money. So again, why wouldn't Moderna just be willing to share? Because she talked about the way that you make the vaccine. She said first you make the mRNA and then it's encircled, like my image is like a gel cap, but it's encircled in some kind of little thing. And that the reason that the Pfizer vaccine is so delicate has to be, you know, maintained at such sub-freezing levels is that circle is very delicate in their model. And Moderna can stand more exposure to heat because their little circle is more durable. So the question is, why wouldn't Moderna just share their little circle technology with Pfizer so that all of us could have access to a more durable vaccine that didn't require all of this special, you know, delivery process.
It's politics. It comes down to politics, which comes down to money, which is what I said. Other than there's certain also logistics. It's logistics, products, and politics. Because there's certain machinery, even if they did have access to it, in certain facilities that they won't, it's something she said it's impossible to duplicate it, okay, the machinery that they would need. You know, so it's a lot of stuff that's combined, but it comes down to politics first, product, logistics, you know, and that made sense. Again, she made a lot of sense. I had not thought about that. that there's certain machines or technology, aka machines, that would have to be in place, even if they did lift the patent and were able to do it. They don't have that machinery and won't be getting it because it's so rare. You know, like you have to have oodles of money to even get it, and then how long does it take? So a lot of it, I never thought of that until she mentioned that. Yeah. That part of it, yeah, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But it's everyone's problem because it's a pandemic. So if everybody's not okay, as they say in the African proverb, then no one's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So the selfishness of it all, and she did mention the fact too, which I also mentioned during our couple conversations we had. There's always been vaccines. People had no problems vaccinating their children. I didn't see people do as much research on vaccinating their children as they are with this coronavirus vaccine. They gave their children measles, mumps, rubella, pertussis, you name it. They've given them all kinds of shots. But I've never personally, now there probably were parents that did do it. I didn't, for sure, investigate all the childhood vaccines that my children got, which you would think, if you're going to do an investigation, that's what would have been done.
I mean, in fairness,
right.
You know, I think that a lot of that has to do is we're talking about vaccines that have been around for decades and decades, you know, long before we were alive, vaccines that we ourselves took as children, you know, and so we don't really know what the reaction was. You know, in fact, Laura Garrett, again, tells a story today of a part of the ugly side of the smallpox vaccine, you know, which is the first vaccine that eliminated a disease. At one point, certain countries were delivering the vaccine at gunpoint.
Yes.
I just right. So everybody obviously was not down for the experimentation.
Yeah. Well, there's still people that weren't down for it. That's why you have anti-vax people, some of them, that have done some research. There are people that actually have done some research. That's why some folks believe that certain vaccines may cause autism. Certain vaccines may cause this and that. So no, there were people out there that actually, you did some research. I'm saying I didn't. You know, my assumption was I had not seen no children drop dead. You know, my assumption, well, I shouldn't say assumption. What I didn't know is how deadly these diseases were. That much I did know. And I didn't want my children to contract one of the diseases. And that's pretty much all I went on, is I knew what they could do to a child if you made it. And I didn't want my children to suffer through that. That was before the school, even that thought of the school demanding it hadn't crossed my mind, opposed to the disease itself. I knew what it could do. The vaccines were there. I thought it was a great thing. Didn't have to be. Maybe that's why Clinton acted the way he does. Maybe that MMR. You wonder where, that's just a joke though. He's a dog. He's really a cool man. But I'm like, you think about it, you look at the children, like, well, maybe that's why that child act that way. There's some booster shots and stuff. Who knows?
Right. Venita, why don't you read question 9? You're gonna like that one.
Oh, okay. Where are we? Question 9. You got so many questions. This is, why don't you write a book, Michelle?
I'm too busy messing with you guys.
That's true. We take all our time. That's true. Number 9, an actual hunter-gatherer gave a more, I cannot pronounce that word.
Egalitarian
plus Adamadori. Be quiet, Georgette. Egalitarian assessment of human nature than did Nietzsche. Up in our country, we are human, said the hunter, And since we are human, we help each other. We don't like to hear anybody say thanks for that. What I get today, you may get tomorrow. Up here, we say that by gifts, one makes slaves, and by whips, one makes dogs. How do you see the strengths and weaknesses of the, pronounce that word?
Egalitarian
Approach to life? How do you see the strengths and weakness of competitive approach to life? With, what's his name? Nietzsche and Smith characterizing humanity in commercial terms, and hunter-gatherers taking an egalitarian pronounce that view. Graeber finds the real question is which we take as the foundation of our humanity and therefore make the basis of our civilization. If it's so clear that measuring leads to slavery, how did we get here?
Thank you.
No question. That was very good. I was a hunter and a gatherer. Georgette was a hunter and gatherer. You were a hunter and gatherer. You could just tell we were. We were gatherers. We didn't hunt a thing. We just went around our little basket and got our little vegetables. Right, Georgette?
Yeah.
Came back under the tree, had a little chit chat. The question is,
well, Georgette might have picked off a chicken or two for us.
Well, see, I didn't want to say anything. I'm trying to leave Trigger Happy Nelly over here. If all else failed, then we called Georgette. That's what we did.
All right. Always need a backup. Okay.
We need a backup. Okay. Georgette was good gathering, but don't let anybody move the wrong way. Don't let that tree or that leaf flicker the wrong way. Georgette will pull out her stuff. Oh, you guys are too much. And what was the question? You may forget what the questions were.
What are the strengths and weaknesses of egalitarianism versus competitiveness?
There is no weakness of egalitarianism. Absolutely none. None. It's the only way, it's the way to go. Competitiveness. Oh. It just brings out the worst in people. You know, and I do believe the way they believe. And why do you say thank you? It's what you're supposed to do. There's some things that I believe that you're just supposed to do. That's what humans do. And I do agree with his theory. Once you thank a person, they become enslaved. Because then it's like you owe me something. As soon as that thank you comes in there, it's almost like wink, wink. Now, next time, this is what I expect of you. And that's why I don't even like compliments or thank yous. It's like if you do something, you did it, that you're only good as your last play anyway. It's done. Move on. You know, if you didn't want to do it, then you shouldn't have done it. But if you do it, you did it. That's it. If it served the purpose it was supposed to serve, that's cool. It's not even a thank you. It's just like, that's good. I'm glad it served the purpose it was supposed to for you. That's it. You know, but once that thank you comes in there, it's almost like, now you owe me something. I did this for you, and now, and the sad part about it, you never know what the price of that is. That's the scary part. What someone could have done for you that you thanked them for could have been very simple, but you don't know what was in the back of their mind, what price you will have to pay for receiving whatever they gave you. So it's interesting. That's very interesting. That's a good conversation to have. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
What do you think, Georgette?
Well, you know, when I read that part where it says, up here we say that by gifts one makes slaves, And then just listening to what you just described is that thank you, that thanks is an immediate obligation, because now you feel like you owe some kind of fealty or equal or greater
You're in debt.
whatever, right, to the person who did something for you. It's kind of like, well, that's probably the weakness of the egalitarian approach, because if we're all have an equal share, equal say, equal respect in society, political, finances, then it would be a natural thing for us to just write, okay, what I have today, you can have tomorrow, and we just give each other whatever we see we each need. Unless somebody comes into that society, or, who has the competitive approach to life, right? And so now they see, oh, these people don't know the value of what they're doing. Let me interject myself into here and get their goal, no, or whatever, or take their women, or enslave them.
Mhm.
So I think egalitarian approach to life is perfect until you are exposed to an equal or greater force that's competitive, right? They got
Mhm.
guns. We over here with berries or whatever. Or whatever. Okay. All right. So, um, and the strengths and weaknesses of competitive, right? So if you're stronger, smarter, faster, whatever, more savvy, you're going to get what you want. The weakness is you're always afraid somebody's coming that's stronger, smarter, faster, or with a better opportunity than you to take what you think, to take what you value, right? And then you look at everyone else with those same eyes, and you would never be able to see, an approach of equality, everyone be equal, as, something of value, but always a potential source for you to tap, or turn into a market, to something
Mhm.
to profit from, instead
Mhm.
of just to live. And I think it also brings into the question, well, what is enough? If everything is competitive, then nothing is ever enough, right? So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're stressed because you're stressed, because it's you need to be stressed about it. You always have fear. So, and then your D, measuring. If measuring leads to slavery, how did we get here?
Right.
Because a greater force met
Mhm.
a sunshine force, sunshine and happy rainbows, love force, and said, you got some nice strong thighs. I'm gonna use that. Okay.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And on D, I think that's exactly right, Gio. And that it goes to what we were talking about at the top of the sort of white male um, vision of the world, um, that does exactly that. But I think that for me, the key point that Graeber is making in this aspect of the chapter, um, is that yes, we all have a certain level of competitiveness within. He doesn't use that word, but he's using every other word around it, right? Is my hair as long as your hair? Is my skin as bright as your skin? Am I as pretty as you? Are you skinnier than me? you know, we have that, but the question is, we have that competitiveness, but we also have that capacity for love. We also have that capacity to want to protect our baby monkey from the rain. We also, have that capacity to want to live, to coexist peacefully. And I'll give Venita some nuts and she can share some of her berries with me. And then we both can relax on the veranda. The question is, what is going to be the driving force that you allow to dominate in society? How are you going to organize your society, knowing that we all, just like we have, if it weren't for the fact that murder is against the law, we'd probably all kill some people every now and then. And so what are the values that a society is going to promote? And what are the boundaries on our human instincts that a society is going to impose so that we can function in the healthiest way? And so competitiveness, which is what capitalism maximizes on, is one way to organize ourselves, but it's not the only way. And so because we have lived for so long under this Adam Smith white male vision of what life should be like, Mother Earth is now choking to death. The rest of us are barely hanging on. The poor animals are running for their dear life. Because we're in this survival of the fittest kind of competition. And we don't have the weaponry. So we're not the fittest. We're not up to that competition. When it comes to who can be the ugliest, who can be the meanest, who can be the most vicious. We don't win that race, but humanity doesn't win that race either. And so how is it logical to let that competitive spirit be the dominant spirit that pushes society forward? So.
There is no quality of life. There's absolutely no quality of life, period. Whether you participate.
Well, that's a downer.
Well, it's a fact. It's a fact, because what happens is, even if you don't want to be in that competitive race, you're forced to be in to survive. When you walk into a corporation, in order for you to survive, you have to play that game all day long. So you're going to be a part of that just for survival. So when you go home in the evening, that's not in your heart and your mind. You don't have a healthy life, because that puts a lot of stress on you to go out there and become competitive, even though you're a gatherer. You prefer to just be chilled. You're forced not to be. So no one really has a healthy life. People that want to be competitive don't have a healthy life, because it's that constant race to a finish line that's never concrete. It's every time you get to that line, then the line is moved here. The line is moved there. Instead of working at 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours a day, now you have that job strapped to you 7 days a week on your phone, 24 hours a day. There's no way that could be what people consider content or happy.
That reminds me, Leah, my friend of mine, Leah, was telling me recently, because she watches all of those shows that I watch. She was telling me that there's a sort of trend going on in the country or the world with people having to have all of these Zoom meetings now for work, that so many more people are going out for plastic surgery because they don't, can't stand having to, they don't feel good enough about their appearance to be on these. Can you imagine?
But no, that's a fact. That's not even anything new. Not only that, you have a Zoom attire now, specifically targeted at what you wear from top up. Really? What kind of jewelry you have on. Yes. So all this is not new. For those who already had the vanity thing going on, which is prior to Zoom. So most of the average people that didn't have that, or most of the people that didn't have that issue before, really don't have the issue now. The only people got those issues down are the people that always had those issues with vanity prior to Zoom. That's it.
Yeah, but that's a part of that measuring yourself, I guess, against,
But they've always
am I the prettiest?
Yeah, well, yes. And they thought they were the prettiest before Zoom. They were worried about whether they're the prettiest before Zoom. So it's just, that's what I'm saying. How can you be content ever? Because there's never any moment where you're content. If you're constantly worrying about this or doing that, or it's tiring. And then you wonder why people don't have any substance. How can you have any substance? There's no time for substance when you live your life that way. But again, that's a conscious choice. A lot of it's conscious choice. Mm-hmm. There's one thing that has to be competitive because that's the way it was when I was in corporate. You had to be competitive while you did. But once I got in my car, I was like, really? That was really, and literally, that's what I would say. I'm like, whatever, bam, put my head back on, but it was tiring just to do it when you didn't want to do it because you had to survive. Yeah. Much less people that actually thrive off of that. There are people that thrive off of that. Well, they think they're thriving off of it because it's important whether they have that $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 car in their garage. It's important whether they have what they think is forever use. And be quite honest with you, if you look at the stupid tube, when the ones that have had these facelifts, and this is just my opinion, although they think they look good, they all look the same. You ever notice that? Yeah. It's like an alien type thing going on. Where you can actually look at a person and they can look at each other and pick out what you have done, girl. I could.
I
guess done.
Too hard.
I guess they look good to each other because they keep doing it. Yeah. But that's what leads me to ask, how do we get here? And I think it's going to be interesting to see after this year and a half of pandemic and people now starting to go back into the workplace, and but they've had this year, and if you had a year of working from home without little children that you had to also be the teacher for, then you might have learned some things, about moving at a different pace, moving at a slower pace that are attractive to you. Some people are finding that.
Yeah. The problem is, will the employer find you moving at an attractive pace, accommodating to them? And they're not. All of them are not. Because in Manhattan, as I said just yesterday, you saw them walking in like they were cattle coming out of a crawl, out of a stall. They wanted them back to work, every last one of them. There's certain companies that wanted everybody back to your job in the office, or you have no job. So you can get all comfortable if you want to. But it depends on what accommodates that corporation. And they're not about your comfort. Okay? It was never about your comfort. It really wasn't from the beginning. It was about there being a pandemic. And in order to make sure that you didn't kick over and that work did not get done, they had you work from home. But it was not about you. Now, I know it probably feel good to think it was about you, but I'm sorry. Again, corporations have no heart. They have no mind. They have a ledger. And on that ledger, they have profits and losses. That's all they see. And if you drop dead, that might mean that during the pandemic, if you're specialized, who are they going to find? So they were really protecting you to protect their corporation. I know it's sad. And I know you think it's a downer, but it's a fact. And nothing to do with you. No, really. And nothing to do with you. Although some people will be staying home because the pandemic did open up opportunities in certain fields that they're already in, where they can actually start their own companies and continue to work at home. You know what I'm saying? So it did a lot of opportunities, came about because of the pandemic. And some people are taking advantage, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to watch the changes that it has on society.
Very interesting.
I'm going to read, let's see, we can maybe get through a lot of questions tonight. Rick's not here.
Where is Rick?
Rick forgot about us tonight, and his mother from France is in town.
Oh, well,
so he's out hanging out with her.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what it is. That's okay. Yeah, he got here.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Question 11. Theologians were especially concerned with redeeming family members held as debt pawns, as the poor became indebted to rich neighbors or to wealthy money lenders in the towns. They would begin to lose title to their fields and to become tenants on what had been their own land, and their sons and daughters would be removed to serve as servants in their creditors' households, or even sold abroad as slaves. When Nehemiah, a Jew of Babylon, was appointed governor of his native Judea, he returned home to find impoverished peasants were unable to pay their taxes. Creditors were carrying off the children of the poor. Nehemiah quickly took action, issuing a clean slate edict, as was common practice in Babylon. And he went further by institutionalizing the law of Jubilee, releasing all debtors every 7 years. Question A. Imagine you were a child who was sold into slavery as payment of your father's debt. How might you feel about yourself? How might you feel about your mother and father? How might this impact how you come to treat your own children? B. Jubilee sounds like a wonderful concept from a debtor's perspective. What do you imagine creditors thought of Jubilee? C. The current U.S. president stands accused of robbing Peter to pay Paul. In other words, he proposes taxing the rich to support the public goods and services he wants to produce. What do you see as the wisdom or folly of Biden's approach of tax and spend? Anybody? Well, we've lost Venita for the moment.
I'm here.
Oh, I don't know why it takes out your entire picture when you mute the video.
That shouldn't happen because I can see where it just is a silhouette, that regular generic silhouette. I see that on the side. So I'm not
saying that. Are you saying it, Gio?
No, it just goes black.
Yeah.
See, I assume that you saw what I see. That silhouette, and I've just turned to, no wonder you kept saying Venita's Georgette. I think you lost Venita. No, but I do see where it's just a silhouette. My face is not there, but they had that generic silhouette. Well, I stopped the video. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, anybody on question 11?
Well, I imagine neither the parent nor the children would feel very good about it, but because that's the way their society function, they have to follow the rules or be punished, right? Which could be death or imprisonment. So, how would it impact how you come to treat your own children? Well, if you were an SOB, you would say, well, I'm feeding you. You're going to be worth something to me later. I can pay a debt off with you. Or, you would, you know, wish to protect them. So maybe you would act in a more responsible way with your own finances and material goods, or seek to, if possible, educate your child and have them elevated above the position that your family was currently in. So, maybe you send them, I don't know, to law school or something, or some occupation that would be a benefit to the whole family, and in some way keep you out of debt to whoever it was that would, be likely to look for some payment from you other than through money. So
Yeah, I think it also puts another spin, Gio, on maybe one of the reasons why people used to have so many kids. I mean, there was no birth control, so there's that. And I always thought about, having a lot of children when you had a farm to work, and all of the physical labor that was a part of life really before the 20th century. And so the more children, the more help you have with all of that. But I had not thought about having a bunch of children because, you might need some of them to pay off debt.
That still happens. That still happens today. There's a dowry. The bride's family is the one that provides the east and the feast and entertainment in many cultures for the wedding. You pay back the parents, which is literally selling, to me, paying a debt by giving them a cow, gold, or whatever that culture requires. She goes off to this other family, and from what we know, it doesn't have to be a Mecca that she's going to. She could go into a cruel mother-in-law, which happens many times. She could be molested and raped by the father-in-law, the sons. She could be made to be a servant, as we know. So what's the difference? That's today. That's today. And that is, again, paying off a debt. And also instead of just, it's the same thing. You're just not saying here physically, here's Jane. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, this has not ended. That's why we have a lot of folks out there now that have organizations to try to help these women that are in those situations. Many times, many countries, they're actually trading their daughters for food, paying debts. So that stuff is very prevalent. It's a big market. I mean, really. So that's why we think it's so far away. And I started thinking, no, what's her name? Lisa
Lynn.
Lisa Lynn. I watched quite a few of her programs. And one of her babies is going out to try to stop the trafficking and the trading and the selling of women in one way or the other. People think just because you don't say, well, or somebody's come by and say, I want that child, that it's different. But people have a way of doing it with children. Because again, as you see, from way back, children are property, not considered humans. Never been considered humans. They have no rights. They have no say. And today, in 2021, believe it or not, we're not that advanced in them having rights. Parents treat them like they're commodities, born them and raise them as commodities. And that's why we had a conversation the other day. And I'm like, where does this debt come from with the parents? Where they, this debt that continuously you owe. I mean, no. I never felt that way, never thought that. I guess I've seen enough of that to not want to feel that way or ever think about that or ever want to do that. You don't owe me anything. And yes, you're right. You did not ask to come here. You owe me nothing. If I made a pact, that was my pact. It had nothing to do with you. You didn't have any voice. You didn't have any votes. There was no democracy, none of that stuff. You was just put there. So it's really sad when you think about it, that they really, our children are always treated as just like on the puppy, really. I mean, it's sad. That's sad. I mean, it's really sad. And to think in 2021, it's really not a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. And I also think if you've been through, just as Georgette was saying, you might, if you've been through that experience, you might come out of it feeling like you're just going to do the same thing to your children because that's the way we do it, or you might, in more rare instances, be the one that wants to break the tradition, and start off on a new path. And then of course you have to be ostracized and all of that.
Well, the cast, every time I think about the books we've read, we can always refer back to one of the many readings that we've had. And we've had many. Yeah. You can take that back to the cast. Yeah. That's a very powerful system in these patriarchal and matriarchal pretend families and their illusion too. But it's very powerful. Yeah. So you continue the tradition. That's right. Make sure you get that Thanksgiving Day table. No, I'm not trying to be funny. Make sure you're able to gather around that Christmas tree. It's sad as you think about that, but I've seen it. I've actually lived it and know that and seen families like that. It's like, but that is strong. That is powerful. That is very powerful. So I can't even talk about that. That's just so powerful. That's bigger than me.
What about Jubilee?
Oh, we need some Jubilee. Yeah, we definitely.
What is Jubilee? What is Jubilee, Venita?
That's when they forgive. They have this great big old when the king feels a little compassion for the little peasants, subjects, aka the little people. He says maybe every 7 years. Well, you know what? You little peon. No. That's what that's even if they don't say it, that's what's in their mind because that's what they do to them. Georgette, that's the Midori.
Okay.
I'm going to have some mercy on your poor little wretched soul. And I'm going to erase all your debt every 7 years. And then right after I erase your debt on 7 year plus 1 day, I'm going to bestow some more debt on you. And we're going to do this all over again.
Well, first your children get to go back home.
Take the kids home, but that's it. That's the only difference between then and now. Because then children really had a lot of value because, you could slave them to death. The day don't nobody want your kids, Georgette. Food is high. Medical coverage. These little kids be wanting iPhones, Nintendo, dirt bikes. Nobody want your kids today. So that wouldn't even work today. You know what I'm saying? That's why we have chapter 7, 11, and 13. That's how we do it. I just said, there's no physical contact because the kid thing wouldn't work today. And plus your kids aren't going to do that. They won't take out the garbage. Could you imagine asking your child saying, you know what? You going to Georgette's house. I got to pay off a debt and you're going to be her slave. And you wonder why you wake up in the morning and you read on Apple News that Venita, Georgette, and Michelle is no longer here. Because those kids aren't doing that. So we couldn't even do that if we wanted to, Georgette. Could we, Michelle?
Yeah.
We couldn't do that. Never.
No. Gio, what do you think the creditors thought about Jubilee?
Oh, they probably didn't like it much, but what are they going to do? So after a while, they probably figured out ways to recoup everything they lost.
What I tell you?
Well, hey, did you hear that? Was it? Is it Mike Huckabee? You know that dude Huckabee
Yeah.
ran for president one time, and he was doing real good until he said, "And we're gonna have a jubilee." They shot him in the foot. Okay, get out of here. I didn't know that. Like, what? You could have almost won, dude.
Wow.
I heard that word before now. I never knew what it actually, I never thought about it much. But I've heard the word Jubilee associated with church.
Yeah.
A long time ago. I don't know whether it's when I went down south when I was a little girl. I used to go down, like for a week every year to go to my aunt's ranch. And, I lived in the city. So we did the horse thing and everything, which is really cool. But I heard that word Jubilee. I'm not sure if it's one of them Friday night revivals. Because they had these Friday night revival things. I wasn't much into it, even as a little girl, because it really used to scare me. Don't take much to scare me. Somebody would jump up and have the Holy Ghost. I'm ready to go home. But no, I heard the word Jubilee before. I don't know how I heard it used, but I remember it must have been during some religious time. I heard that word before. But do you ever hear that, Georgette, Jubilee?
Yeah, and well, because they had no real power over the people's debts, they normally associated it with God's gonna give us a jubilee, a spiritual jubilee.
See, I knew I heard it somewhere associated with religion. Being a little girl, I heard that word Jubilee used before, and I couldn't quite, because I was a little person, but I heard that word.
Yeah.
So God's gonna give a jubilee. I got you.
But you
that
go
didn't
to work
work
on Monday. No.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Michelle? What do you think?
I think what Georgette said about the creditors finding ways to recoup their losses is probably exactly right. I was listening to a Zoom event today. The topic was mutual aid in periods of disaster, and one of the panelists was Adrienne Marie Brown, who is the editor of the book that Georgette and I are reading in the other book group called Octavia's Brood. So that's one thing that caught my eye about it. Naomi Klein was another one of the panelists, and I love her too. But what Georgette said about creditors recouping their money makes me think about Naomi Klein's concept of disaster capitalism. And, that really is a way of, finding ways to profit, either because of disasters that you yourself have orchestrated, or just taking advantage of the crises at hand and profiting in a big way because of it. And so certainly this period of the global pandemic is one where many companies, not just the drug companies, but many companies have been making out like fat rats. And so it just makes me want to say, whatever losses they may have incurred because somebody went bankrupt, they got it back now.
Yeah, because you need that toilet paper, and they're gonna make you pay for it.
Oh, and inflation has hit, in case anybody didn't hear about it. Well, I heard about a month ago because I watch the stock market every day. Lumber's up 500%. There are people that are building homes right now for whatever reason they may have. Their contracts are already in. It's costing about 26 to 36% more to build your home, and not just that, the logistics are all off. So that on top of that, there is a scarcity because of logistics. Toilet paper is going to be higher. I want to let y'all know, make a run for it.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I went in the store today to buy some paper towels. And I knew I should have hoarded more, but I didn't. Went to the store to buy paper towels, 6 of the so-called double rolls. Joe, the regular rolls were the same size as the double rolls were about 5-7 years ago. $15.
Wow.
$15. You know the ones with the three instead of having the full sheets, got the 3.
Yeah, you can separate them whatever size you want.
6 rolls. They call it the triple roll. $15. And I compare prices. That's how distraught I was. Now I'm not talking about compare prices. Wasn't like I went to like just a corner store or just an expensive little boutique store. No, I compare prices. Some places were $15, some was $15.99 for 6 rolls of paper towels.
Yeah.
So we have to go back now, as we did before. I have beautiful, beautiful, all cotton, organic, hand, just regular napkins. As I have to go back. $15, Michelle, $15.
But the price of chicken, I find the price of fruits, fresh fruit, to be really exorbitant around here. There are a lot of things. And some of those are just, deal related to real shortages. But some of the profiteering, I'm not hating on anybody. Some of the profiteering is just the real increased demand that COVID has, the more people being at home and wanting to have their groceries delivered.
And less people working in the factories, and less people working in the chicken factories and the beef factories. So it's supply and demand. And of course, they don't have enough supply because of that. There is some scarcity in a lot of areas. The chicken costs $10 here. It's not like you have to live in the city and go to the bodega. You might be, or a small corner store. No, major grocery stores, whether boutique or not, a chicken costs you $10. A chicken. So it's like, I mean that I don't even eat beef, so I don't know what that costs. I'm sure it's absorbent, if whatever it is.
It's high.
It's high.
It's high.
Yeah. So all right, let's see. Let me see if there's another question. Oh, yeah. Let's look at 14. That'll be the last one. Geo.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if I want to do 14 or 15. I want to do 14, but I just want to say real quick about 15 on that. The question 15B, does Graeber's insight on equality help you see why the visceral cries of enslaved Africans in America fell on deaf ears? I just thought that was an interesting point that he was making, that throughout history, if the protests have been coming from people who basically are seen as your equals, that carries a different kind of weight than protests coming from people you see as inferior. And we are certainly the recipients of that kind of callousness. being people of color. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gio, would you read question 14, please?
Okay. Religious concepts of sin, guilt, penance, absolution and redemption, and the devil and St. Peter with their rival ledger books reflect market language. A. If, as Graeber is arguing, there is a certain illogic to railing against the market while framing objections in market terms, then what other means of expressing displeasure do humans have? B. What do you see as the pros and cons of describing human conditions in market terms? And C. Today, Americans are encouraged to see themselves as brands. What do you see as the implications of viewing ourselves and each other as brands?
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
That last question, C, it just flashed through my head. This whole thing that people have about wearing labels, designer labels on their clothes. And, again, another way of judging and measuring each other, what brand you want to be associated with, in your clothing and the cars you buy and, everything.
Yeah.
We're interesting creatures. So anyway, anybody else on something on question 14?
Well, I'm just going to piggyback off of you on C there because I didn't even, consider that. But yeah, you're right. And then it evolved so far as to the actual person being the brand, and then that was the marketing. Okay, Beyonce and the Beehive, that's a brand. And then
Mm-hmm.
in you see these
Oprah
on
is a
right,
brand.
one word, right? And then these little entrepreneurs and they'd hold like a self-improvement or business classes and say, what's your brand? You got to think about your brand. That's how you're going to succeed. So now you've removed yourself from being a sentient being into being a commodity. So
Yeah,
okay, and then what happens to the sentient being once the commodity has no more value? Okay, you're
right,
out there. What happens to
right.
that person behind that brand? Or they make a slip up on social media now. Oh, but you supported, whatever hashtag, I don't know,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And now everybody hates you. And where will you go with your brand? You've lost your endorsements,
Now you need
contracts.
brand management.
Right, right. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Just too much of that hmm, that getting right mentality instead of the giving and being.
There's a very
Hmm.
blurred line. Like when if you think about, corporations um, now having, being able to operate as if they're humans in the political process, and humans now having to act like they are commodity objects
Yeah.
to be bought and sold. It's just interesting how this language, the use of language, really fucks with your head, and you don't even see it coming.
What did I tell you
Yeah.
before? The Christians believe that an empty mind is a devil playground. I believe, as Taoism believes, that the empty mind should be your goal, the only goal. And that's the problem, that once all that's gone and you wonder why people walk around, they have no substance, because they really don't. They are their brand. And if they're not associating themselves with that brand, it's like a whole different movement and language and everything, then they're nothing. They're just like a shell without that brand.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, there's certain people, Beyonce with the Beehive and all others like her, I mean, it's been way before
And
her.
that's but Beyonce and Oprah on the mega level, but even just an everyday YouTube creator, they are encouraging to see yourself as a brand, you know.
In corporations, before there were certain distinctive tiers. Even the simple administrative assistant, they are telling you you need to brand yourself. There's a brand for everything. Before it was just like, as I said before, it was like if you were maybe had a higher position or maybe an entertainer. No, they're branding children. Children have brands and they're being branded by their parents. Their parents need for a brand themselves, and in turn, what they're doing, they're branding their children. That little boy or little girl that walks around with Yves Saint Laurent clothes on at 18 months old, Oscar de la Renta, customed, this and that at 2, going to the most prestigious nursery school. They call it something more sophisticated to make it sound cute. Nursery school, they're being tested to see if you can distinguish your colors at 2. They're branding their children. And when they get done, they'll send to these elitist, fictitious make-believe in their mind. But once again, you're as big as you make yourself. I could be as big of life and so can you. It depends on how you brand yourself. So branding is really big today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, how you brand yourself, how you market yourself.
Yes.
You know,
it's blurred.
It's
Marketing is branding. Marketing is for branding. You know what I'm saying? So that's right. You can go out there if you have today, tomorrow, if you went to real estate. You can, if you have the finances, you could put billboards all up and down the highways, on buildings, in neighborhoods that you desire to sell homes in. You ain't had to never sell a house in your life. You ain't had to never sell not one property, whether it's residential or commercial. But when you brand yourself and make yourself as big as life, people assume that you've been there. Again, it's all make-believe. They assume that you are this big time sales, you have these big sales and you never sold a piece of property in your life. But if you have the money to rent the billboards and do all the marketing you need to do, you've created a brand. And people, of course, what they like? Brand. So they'll come to Jane Doe. And then on top of that, if Jane Doe also has the money to lease her a nice Benz and has the money to get her a nice Louis Vuitton bag, make sure she has the Christy Dior shoes on. Ain't never sold a house in her life, but she will be selling a lot. And she could tell people anything. She doesn't even have to have the knowledge. That's what amazing to me. You don't have to even have the knowledge. Whatever you say will be good enough for them. And she'll become a multi-millionaire in no time flat. None. So, and that comes back to how you brand yourself through marketing. It's amazing. But because we're not in that
market,
we're not there. We're not there. So we're going to brand ourselves with 5,000 years.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting book. And this chapter was very interesting. Yes,
he really makes you think. Yeah,
he makes you think a lot. He really does. Which the things that they were there, but I never saw them. Some things I just never recognized them. And then we start putting 2 and 2 together, like the Bible and the forgiveness of debt every 7 years. Well, when you file bankruptcy, it stays on, I was telling Michelle, on your credit for 7 years, which I already knew. And then your slate is wiped clean. And then you can go back again and run up debt, file bankruptcy, but it don't make a difference. By then you bought the multi-million-dollar homes, you got the yachts, you got the boat, the multiple cars. You sitting still pretty good. You know what I'm saying? And in 7 years, it's like nothing never happened. Although you can't pay for the multi-million-dollar home, the multiple cars and yacht, it's like nothing never happened. And that came from the Bible.
I find it interesting. I'm enjoying him because it's interesting for me to read a book that really is a book about economics.
That's what it is.
Through the lens of an anthropologist.
That's amazing.
You know, and I hated economics 101 in college. Bored the hell out of me. But if you had shown me the real human history of how we got to this place, you know, I might have gone on a different path. Yeah.
And it would have been easier for you to understand economics. I had economics 1 and 2. It's hard. It's not an easy subject. But if
they make it that way.
They make it difficult.
You know, they make it that way, and they're really trying to, you know, just inculcate you to these values, you know, that Adam Smith, you know, promoted. You just need to get in line and repeat, you know, what this is how we do it here. And obviously Graeber's coming at it from a different perspective.
Yes.
So, you know, they wouldn't hire him to teach the economics class.
No. Because then you produce real people with real thoughts and real opinions, and capitalism would not work the way it works today. So we're not going to do anything like that. But surprisingly, I'm looking at the dates of all this, of as far as he knew of some of the conditioning that brought us where we are today. 455 BC, before 455. And you want to why people hooked on nothing? Well, hell, if it's been since 455 BC, well, you know, you're pretty well conditioned, beaten down, slumped over, whatever you need to do to be in that mode forever.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see the dates, Geo, 455 before Christ?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so if it's been going back that far. This is never going to change. This is the way it is.
It's a well-honed machine. But I, you know, Venita and I have this fight all the time. I'm never going to give in to her pessimism that is never going to change.
That's not pessimism. That's realism.
Well, I mean, maybe question 15 that we didn't get to. But one of the things that he talks about, you know, is how there are these periods, for the most part, decade after decade, century after century, millennia after millennia, people just accept the way things are and say, this is just the way it's done. But, you know, every now and then, people rise up. The debtors rise up and create a problem, create a ripple. That does lead to some level of change.
Temporary.
You know, and that's why, even though they're playing the long game and they're playing the same game, they at least have to every now and then change the language, do something to make you think you've had a little progress.
Temporary relief, that's what it's called. It's not called progress. That's why they came up with bankruptcy. It's called temporary relief. And then every time you turn that TV, no, really, it's only temporary relief. It's not even progress.
Listen to all the time, Gio.
You know, but you know what, Gio? That's
why I can get up in the morning.
Gio, that's why we've been friends for 40-something years. Because you know what? We go head and head, and she gonna stick to what she think, and I'm gonna stick to what.
Yep.
and then we hang up, and everybody's
I'm gonna put some rose color in my glass.
And see, that's
All
what,
right.
and Gio, that's what I've been told. I said, Michelle, everything, and she gets mad, like I really care. Everything is you can't be, you're being a pessimist. I'm being a realist. There's a difference. No, you're being pessimistic because then she goes through the whole thing and I have to tell her that everything's not unicorns. And then she still insisted there is a rainbow and all this crazy. And I'm like, girl, please. You know what I'm saying? And we've been doing this now for how long, Gio? How long have we been doing this? And guess what? The good news is we hang up and we have not changed our opinions. We just finished for the night. Okay?
Okay, so the way I see it is Michelle has a hold of this beautiful balloon filled with helium, but she's got firm grip of your hand, and you
Yep.
got 2 feet dug into the ground, and you got a firm grip of her hand, and you balance each other out. Okay,
That's
that picture.
That's exactly what happens. That's it. Actually, be off to see the wizard, and I'll be like, girl, there's a yellow brick road. Come on back here for a minute. Let me tell you something. And then she turned around and get mad at me. That's not how she get mad.
Oh my
I don't even care, Gio. I just laugh at it. But you just being a pessimist, and she'll go this whole rant, and I'm like, but anyway, I'm not being a pessimist. I'm being a realist. But you're not being fair. You're not looking at your lens is small. My lens aren't small. No, they're not small. This is one thing that there's no rainbow, baby. I know it's hard on you.
What the world needs now.
That's her. Yeah, that is exactly her. That's hold hands. And you know, it's not even time to hold hands because there's no, you know, but she want to hold hands. And I'm like, girl, let the hand go. It's time to go. Okay. It's time for us to make an exit.
Reading our story together. Everyone have a lovely week.
You as well. Goodbye, Gio. Have a nice evening.
And happy Mother's Day to
Oh, yes.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.